The Miami Heat, we'll see if they're good enough to challenge the Lakers. Miami's young, and they're not going to be intimidated. Maybe the series goes 6 or 7 games. I'm rooting for a competitive series. If LeBron wins another title, I'd be happy for him. But if you said Miami was going to win this, I think it'd be a great story. And Miami's probably 1 or 2 years ahead of where they thought they would be. And I was telling the Danettes, I went to Dan Le Batard's wedding, and during cocktail hour at the reception, Pat Riley comes in with his wife, and the Heat had a game that night, so he was coming in. He just wanted to pay tribute to Dan Le Batard, one of his friends. And Riles had one of his championship rings on. Yes, one of his championship rings. Now, I say to my wife, she goes, "Who's that?" I said, "That's Pat Riley." And I said, "But, he probably won't have much of a conversation with me. I don't think he's big on media members." Pat Riley walks over. "Hey, Dan, it's my wife." And I said, "Well, this is my wife." And then he started talking about, hey, the wedding and the reception. And I said, "Hey, I got to congratulate you on the roster you built." And he said, "We're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of schedule." He goes, "I really like what we built here. Really like what we built." So that's a year ago. And here he is now with this team in the NBA final. He couldn't have been more charming if it was scripted. He looked great. He looked great. Still looked great. But you can't, when somebody talks to you and they gesture, and he's got that huge ring on, it's like he had a lantern on his finger there. It was just sticking up so large, and you can't help it, when you're watching him gesture, and I'm watching that ring fling around. Yeah, Paulie.
Were you bummed out because up until that point of the wedding, you were the most famous person in the room?
Yes. Yes. And I did say that to Le Batard. I said, "Look, I'll go, but you got to promise me I'll be the most famous person." And I walked in, and there's Pablo Torres, Tony Reale, Pablo Torre. And so that sounds bad. I'm making it seem like I didn't even know Pablo's last name.
But in South Florida, when Pat Riley walks in, it's over, right?
Yeah. Well, any place if Riles walks in. Israel Gutierrez, Bomani Jones. I was thinking, all right, I'm still probably number 1 on the list here. And then Riles came in, and then I turned to Le Batard, and I said, "Damn you. No Ricky Williams." Yes,
Pat Riley's got to have one of the longest stretches between rings, where he had like one in 88, right? Ooh. And then 2006.
Ooh.
You got to think after not winning for almost 2 decades, that you don't think you're going to get another one, and then.
Yeah. I apologize, Pablo. I got your name wrong. Yes, McLean.
Getting a lot of complaint tweets that you didn't give more respect to Stugotz as maybe the most popular.
Well, Stugotz came late.
What?
Stugotz showed up. He had been at a lacrosse game with his daughters. He showed up at the reception with shorts on. He looked like a mess. But he looked like Stugotz, I should say. But yeah, I did take inventory. As we sat down for the wedding, I'm looking around. My wife goes, "Who are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for somebody who's a bigger name than me." And she goes, "Oh, that's sad." And I go, "I know it is. I know it is." But I told Le Batard I'd go only if I was the biggest name. But when Riles walked in, it's like when Michael Douglas walked into the studio. And then the fact that Michael Douglas was basically channeling Pat Riley when he did Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. And when Riles walks in, it was just different. Yes, McLevin.
And you might have mentioned this, sorry, but isn't he good friends with The Rock, Dan Le Batard? I thought they were really tight. He was in Ballers and...
He might be, but he wasn't there.
Because that would have been tough.
That would have been tough, too. I could not compete with The Rock. But, yeah, I was just taking inventory there the whole time during the reception. Because I thought, somebody's going to come in with a cameo and, knock Riley right off the pedestal there. But, John Skipper, the former ESPN president, was there. But, Sarah Spain was there. Basically had around the horn, and highly questionable was there. Le Batard's father, Poppy, was there as well. Yes, McLovin.
When you were covering Pat Riley through the years, were you ever intimidated by him?
Yes.
He always looked intimidating to me.
This is what happened. So I was covering the Knicks when they were in the finals, and I remember I was with Dr. Jack Ramsey. He was our analyst on the mothership. And I knew Riles could be really tough with the media. And I said, "Coach, give me something that I can bring up to Pat Riley that he can't dismiss." And so Jack said, ask Pat about this. And it was something that's really complex. And in retrospect, I shouldn't have gone so deep with him because he was not in the mood really to answer anything. In fact, Riley kicked me, obviously, out of practice. We were getting ready to do a SportsCenter stand-up, like previewing the NBA Finals or the next game. Jeff Van Gundy was an assistant coach. Van Gundy walks over, and we knew. He goes, and Jack goes, "You want us to leave, Jeff?" And then he goes, "Well, Coach wants you to leave." And I thought, you're kicking Jack Ramsey out of the practice? But Riles did. And then we had to go into the bowels of Madison Square Garden there. And here's Jack, a Hall of Fame coach, wonderful man. And he said, because I was a little upset. I'm like, people want to know what's going on in the practice, and you can say some of this stuff on sports. And he goes, "Dan, don't worry, I'll find out." He was okay with it, but I always felt bad that, I got kicked out of practice, but I understood that. But Dr. Jack Ramsey was like, yeah, he was okay with it.